For thousands of years, humans looked at the silver circle in the night sky and wondered, what would it feel like to be there? And that question silently burned in the hearts of millions of dreamers until one day, humanity stopped dreaming about the moon and started dreaming towards it. Every vision is doubted until the first person accomplishes it. In 1961, John F. Kennedy stood in front of the world and made a bold promise. We choose to go to moon not because it is easy, but because it is hard. No blueprint, no guarantee, only an audacious dream to land a man on moon and bring him back to Earth. Raise your hand if you ever had an idea and people called it impossible. Keep it raised if you still believe in it, because it's your moon mission right there. Let's rewind to one of the greatest moments in human history. Apollo 11, the first spacecraft to land on the moon. When Neil Armstrong stepped onto the surface, the whole world held its breath. And then came the words that we will never forget. One small step for a man, and one giant leap for mankind. But not every space story begins in a glory. Fast forward to Apollo 13. After 2 days of the launch, 200,000 miles from Earth, the crew heard a loud bang. The ship shook, lights flickered, alarms went off, and oxygen started to drop. NASA immediately called off the moon landing, and the mission flipped from exploration to survival mode. Now, it's not about reaching the moon anymore. It's about how do we bring the astronauts back home alive. That is when NASA turned to something remarkable called living model. So this living model is the full physical replica of the spacecraft back in Earth. It's a living simulator used for testing and training. Think of it as a mirror version of the spacecraft, living and breathing the problems that astronauts faced. Engineers used to run the simulations of every failure that is happening in space by using this living model. They ran every simulations. Due to the simulations, right, they could make predictions how the spacecraft would behave in the next hour or even the next day. They ran hundreds of combinations, exploring multiple probabilities and possibilities, simulating what would break and what would help them. And finally, these step-by-step ground-tested solutions became the lifeline which guided the astronauts back home alive. This living model evolved today to what we call it as digital twins. So, what was supposed to be a huge disaster became one of the greatest rescue stories in space history. Apollo 13 never reached the moon, but it showed the world something even more powerful, the power of simulation. In December 2015, Chennai faced one of its worst floods in its history. Days of relentless rain battered the city. Reservoirs reached to its maximum capacity, lakes overflowed, and in order to prevent the dam breaches, water was released into the city without even identifying the downstream impact. And what happened next was chaos. Roads disappeared underwater. Hospitals were shut down, and people ran to terraces for help, which even arrived a little late. Businesses were shut down for weeks, and billions were lost. And many lives never returned home. If Chennai would have had a digital twin, we could have uncovered what would happen if the reservoir reaches 90% of its capacity. Where should we deploy the boats? Where should we reroute the traffic? Which area should be evacuated first and when? All these scenarios could have been run in minutes, showing exactly how the flood would spread hour by hour. Chennai didn't lack resources. Chennai didn't lack courage. Chennai lacked the ability to simulate and respond to disasters. Ladies and gentlemen, today, digital twin is used across multiple industries. In aviation, to predict aircraft failures. In manufacturing, to simulate factory operations. And in smart cities, to model the urban systems, and much more. Today, Singapore is called the world's smartest city. But back then, Singapore was a land-scarce city, second most densely populated country in the world. Due to the lack of horizontal land space, Singapore has seen a significant vertical rises over the years, with more and more people residing in high rises. To overcome this extremely dense urban environment, Singapore Land Authority embarked on a groundbreaking project to build the world's first digital twin. This initiative was called Virtual Singapore. They built a digital replica of the entire nation. And the scale of data collection was huge and massive. And that collected data has become the digital heartbeat of the entire nation. So what did Singapore achieve by investing in digital twins? They were able to predict disasters before even it happens by running powerful simulations. They were able to simulate flood, fire, power failures, and figure out before even any crisis happens. And city planners could digitally run heavy rainfall and see how it affects the flood-prone neighborhood areas and fix the problem before even it happens. Twins don't stop with industries and factories anymore. They are scaling to something much, much bigger. Today, there are certain companies capturing the digital twin of the Mother Earth, which is so much complex, capturing land, ocean, atmospheres to better predict the climatic conditions and to explore what comes next. So, ladies and gentlemen, today, if we could create a digital twin of Mother Earth, which is so much complex, why can't we create one for ourselves? And the next question comes, how do we do that? It starts with something simple, paying attention. Begin sensing yourself by tracking everyday signals, your sleep patterns, your movements, your heart rate, your stress level. Your Fitbits and smartwatches are already collecting the data for you. You have to just start listening to it. And next comes understanding your patterns. Look at your data and ask few simple questions. When you are at your best, what drains your energy? Which habit makes you to perform better? Twins doesn't start with perfection. They start with patterns. And the most interesting part is trying out things. Use your data and try to run some real-life simulations and see what happens if you go to sleep 30 minutes earlier every day. What happens if you work out for 15 minutes instead of scrolling your mobile phones? What happens if you walk 7,000 steps instead of 3,000 steps per day? Right? Update small changes week by week. Update your twins regularly, because the safest place to fail, learn, and improve is inside your own digital twin. A personal digital twin is not something about becoming perfect. It's about becoming self-conscious of your own body. It's not a medical diagnosis. It's a self-awareness empowered by your own digital data. Ladies and gentlemen, today, twins doesn't talk about industries, factories, or data. They are about people. They are about humans. They help protect human lives. When we could predict an aircraft failure before even it happens, or prevent a power breakdown, we keep the pilots, the passengers, the entire cities safe. Twins empower better human decisions. When decisions are supported by real-life simulations, we stop guessing and we feel confident and we know exactly what is going to happen. Instead of relying on the instance alone, leaders can now test out ideas, see the outcomes, and choose what is better for the society. And most importantly, twins enable hope. Hope that cities can be cleaner, industries could be smarter, transportation could be smoother, and the world becomes more resilient. Because at the end of the day, technology is not just about efficiency, it's about making human lives better. Thank you.